Philadelphia Eagles all-time top 10 players. Who's the greatest Philadelphia Eagle of all time? That question starts fights in every bar, living room, and tailgate across the city, and we're about to rank the top 10 once and for all. When viewers see this, they're asking, does Reggie White dominate? Where does Brian Dawkins rank? Did modern legends crack the list? Here's the truth. These 10 players didn't just wear midnight green. They bled for the city, delivered championships, and created moments that define what it means to be an Eagle. This isn't just a ranking. This is the definitive list of the greatest players in franchise history. Number 10, Harold Carmichael, the original giant at wide receiver for the Eagles. 4 Pro Bowl selections, 589 catches for 8,978 yards and 79 touchdowns in 13 seasons with Philadelphia. At 6'8", Carmichael was a matchup nightmare before that was even a concept. Nobody could cover him in the red zone. He led the NFL in receptions in 1973 with 67 catches. In the 1970s, that was elite production. Carmichael played during some of the darkest years in Eagles history, but he stayed loyal and produced anyway. His 127 consecutive games with a reception stood as an NFL record for years. That consistency was remarkable. The Eagles inducted him into their Hall of Fame in 1987, and he finally made the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2020. Carmichael proved that size matters at receiver, especially before the NFL had 6'5" cornerbacks to match up. But being a dominant receiver is impressive. What's more impressive? Being a center that revolutionized your position. Number 9, Jason Kelce, the heart and soul of the modern Eagles. 7 Pro Bowl selections, 6 first-team All-Pro honors, 193 games played, which is the most by any offensive lineman in franchise history. Kelce went from 6th-round pick to one of the greatest centers in NFL history. That's not just development, that's transformation. He started 156 consecutive regular season games, a franchise record for offensive linemen. Kelce won Super Bowl 52 and delivered the most iconic speech in Philadelphia sports history at the championship parade. Dressed as a mummer, Kelce defended his teammates and compared Eagles fans to hungry dogs starved for 52 years. The city loved him forever after that moment. His 134 consecutive starts from 2014 through his retirement showed incredible durability and consistency. Kelce retired after the 2023 season as arguably the greatest center in Eagles history and definitely the most beloved. But beloved modern players are one thing. What about the old school warriors who defined toughness? Number 8, Steve Van Buren, the Eagles' first superstar running back. 4 Pro Bowl selections, 5 first-team All-Pro honors, 5,860 rushing yards in 8 seasons. Van Buren led the NFL in rushing 4 times from 1945 to 1949. He was the most dominant back of his era. He won back-to-back NFL championships in 1948 and 1949, scoring the only touchdown in the 1948 championship game during a blizzard. Van Buren rushed for 196 yards in the 1949 championship game through mud and rain. That performance is legendary. At 6'1" and 200 pounds, he was massive for a running back in the 1940s. He ran through defenders with power nobody had seen before. Van Buren retired as the NFL's all-time leading rusher with 5,860 yards. That record stood until Jim Brown broke it. He made the Hall of Fame in 1965 and remains the standard for Eagles running backs even 75 years later. But championship running backs from the 1940s are historic. What about receivers who dominated for over a decade? Number 7, Pete Pihos, the two-way star who played both fullback and defensive end for the Eagles. 6 Pro Bowl selections, 6 first-team All-Pro honors, 373 catches for 5,619 yards and 61 touchdowns. Pihos won 3 NFL championships with the Eagles in 1948, 1949, and 1960. That's dynasty-level success. He led the league in receptions 3 straight years from 1953 to 1955. That consistency was unmatched. Pihos played both offense and defense for most of his career. He caught passes, blocked, and played defensive line. At 6'1" and 210 pounds, he was physical, tough, and refused to come off the field. The Eagles inducted him into their Hall of Fame in 1987, and he made the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1970. Pihos represented the old-school Eagles mentality: tough, physical, and successful. Speaking of tough and physical, our next player took that to a completely different level. Number 6, Donovan McNabb, the greatest quarterback in Eagles history. 6 Pro Bowl selections, 32,873 passing yards, 216 touchdowns, 3,459 rushing yards with Philadelphia. McNabb led the Eagles to 5 NFC Championship games and 1 Super Bowl appearance. That's sustained excellence. From 2000 to 2004, the Eagles won the NFC East 4 straight times. McNabb was the engine driving that success. He rushed for over 3,400 yards as a quarterback, showing dual-threat ability before that was common. McNabb's toughness was legendary. He played through injuries that would sideline other quarterbacks. The Super Bowl 39 loss to New England stings, but McNabb gave the Eagles the best 5-year run in franchise history. His relationship with the city was complicated, but his production was undeniable. McNabb proved that franchise quarterbacks can carry teams to sustained success even without championships. But sustained success without championships is frustrating. Our top 5 all won championships and dominated their eras. Number 5. Brian Westbrook, the most versatile offensive weapon in Eagles history. 2 Pro Bowl selections, 9,785 yards from scrimmage, 66 touchdowns in 8 seasons with Philadelphia. Westbrook could do everything: run inside, run outside, catch passes, return kicks, block. He was a complete player. His 2007 season was legendary. 1,333 rushing yards, 90 catches for 771 receiving yards, 12 touchdowns. Westbrook averaged 5.6 yards from scrimmage for his entire Eagles career. That efficiency was elite. He delivered in huge moments, including the 2004 NFC Championship game where he dominated Atlanta. Westbrook's ability to change games in the passing game separated him from traditional running backs. Andy Reid built his offense around Westbrook's versatility, and it worked for nearly a decade. The Eagles inducted him into their Hall of Fame in 2015, cementing his legacy as one of the franchise's all-time greats. Speaking of all-time greats who changed positions, our top 4 are the undisputed legends of the franchise. Number 4. Jerome Brown, the dominant defensive tackle who died tragically young. 2 Pro Bowl selections, 2 first-team All-Pro honors, played just 6 seasons before his death at age 27. Brown was the heart of Buddy Ryan's defense in the late 1980s and early 1990s. The gangrene defense ran through him. At 6'2" and 295 pounds, Brown was quick, powerful, and relentless. He made everyone around him better. The Eagles were Super Bowl contenders with Brown anchoring the defensive line. His death in a car accident in 1992 devastated the franchise. Brown recorded 29.5 sacks as a defensive tackle, showing his ability to pressure quarterbacks from the interior. His leadership and personality made him irreplaceable. The Eagles retired his number 99 jersey. We'll never know how great Brown could have been, but his 6 seasons showed Hall of Fame potential. Speaking of Hall of Fame potential fulfilled, our final 3 are the greatest Eagles who ever lived. Number 3. Brian Dawkins, Weapon X, the most passionate Eagle in franchise history. 9 Pro Bowl selections, 4 first-team All-Pro honors, 34 interceptions, tied for franchise lead, and 21 sacks. Dawkins redefined the safety position by playing like a cornerback in coverage and a linebacker in run support. He forced 32 fumbles, the most in franchise history. His ability to create turnovers changed games. Dawkins played 13 seasons in Philadelphia and made the playoffs 8 times. He was the emotional leader of those teams. His pregame speeches and on-field intensity made him beloved by teammates and fans alike. The Eagles inducted him into their Hall of Fame in 2012, and he made the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2018. Dawkins represented everything Philadelphia sports stands for: toughness, passion, and refusing to quit. His number 20 jersey is retired, and no Eagle will ever wear it again. Speaking of retired players, our final 2 have theirs hanging in the rafters for very different reasons. Number 2. Chuck Bednarik, Concrete Charlie, the last of the 60-minute men. 8 Pro Bowl selections, 10 first-team All-Pro honors, 2 NFL championships, 1949 and 1960. Bednarik played center on offense and linebacker on defense. He was elite at both positions. His tackle of Jim Taylor in the final seconds of the 1960 NFL Championship game won Philadelphia its last championship for 57 years. Bednarik's hit on Frank Gifford in 1960 knocked the Giant star out of football for 18 months. That's the kind of physical player he was. He played 14 seasons and missed just 3 games. His durability and toughness were legendary. Bednarik made the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1967, just 5 years after retiring. That's immediate recognition of greatness. His number 60 jersey is retired, and he's considered one of the greatest linebackers and centers in NFL history. Bednarik defined what it meant to be an Eagle: tough, physical, and successful. But even Concrete Charlie ranks second to the most dominant defensive player in NFL history. Number 1, Reggie White, the Minister of Defense, the greatest Philadelphia Eagle of all time. 8 Pro Bowl selections with the Eagles, 6 first-team All-Pro honors, 124 sacks in 8 seasons. Those 124 sacks are still the franchise record, and nobody else has even reached 90. White recorded 21 sacks in the strike-shortened 1987 season, 12 games. That's 1.75 sacks per game. He had 11 or more sacks in every single season he played for Philadelphia. That consistency is unmatched. White wasn't just a pass rusher, he dominated against the run, finished plays, and made everyone around him better. At 6'5" and 300 pounds with 4.6 speed, White was the perfect combination of size, strength, and athleticism. He led the NFL in sacks twice, 1987 and 1988, and was the most feared defensive player of his era. The Eagles' gangrene defense of the late 1980s and early 1990s was built around White's dominance. He left Philadelphia after the 1992 season and won a Super Bowl with Green Bay in 1996, which stings Eagle fans to this day. White made the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2006, just months after his death at age 43. His number 92 jersey is retired, and his legacy as the greatest defensive end in NFL history is secure. Reggie White is the greatest Philadelphia Eagle of all time. His dominance, consistency, and impact are unmatched in franchise history. The GOAT debate. Why is Reggie White number 1 over Chuck Bednarik and Brian Dawkins? Peak dominance. White had 124 sacks in 8 seasons. Nobody in Eagles history dominated their position like White dominated defensive end. Consistency. White had 11 or more sacks every season. That sustained excellence is rare. Impact. The entire gangrene defense was built around White. He was the centerpiece. The argument for Chuck Bednarik is championships and versatility. Bednarik won 2 titles and played both ways, but White's 8-year peak was more dominant than any 8 years Bednarik had. The argument for Brian Dawkins is longevity and leadership. Dawkins played 13 seasons and was the emotional leader, but White's dominance as a pass rusher changed games more than Dawkins' playmaking ability. Donovan McNabb gave the Eagles their best 5-year run but never won the Super Bowl. Brian Westbrook was the most versatile weapon but only had 2 elite seasons. Jason Kelce was the greatest center in franchise history and won a Super Bowl. Steve Van Buren won back-to-back championships in the 1940s and was the era's best running back. Harold Carmichael was loyal through terrible years and still produced at an elite level. White's combination of dominance, consistency, and impact separates him from everyone else. Why these 10? Why these 10 Eagles over everyone else? LaShawn McCoy rushed for over 10,000 yards with the Eagles, but isn't in the top 10 because others had more impact. Fletcher Cox had a great career, but doesn't match Reggie White or Jerome Brown's dominance. Randall Cunningham was exciting, but McNabb had more sustained success. Tommy McDonald was a great receiver, but Carmichael and Westbrook had more impact. Jeremiah Trotter was beloved, but doesn't crack the top 10 all time. These 10 players we chose combined championships, individual dominance, and franchise impact. Reggie White was the most dominant defensive player ever. Chuck Bednarik was the toughest and most versatile. Brian Dawkins was the most passionate and emotional. Jerome Brown had Hall of Fame potential before tragedy struck. Brian Westbrook was the most complete offensive weapon. Donovan McNabb was the greatest quarterback in franchise history. Pete Pihos won 3 championships playing both ways. Steve Van Buren was the first Eagles superstar. Jason Kelce was the greatest center and most beloved modern player. Harold Carmichael was loyal and productive through the worst years. The evolution of the Eagles. Looking at this list shows how the Eagles franchise evolved. Steve Van Buren and Pete Pujols built championship foundation in the 1940s and 1950s. Chuck Bednarik defined toughness in the 1960 championship team. Harold Carmichael stayed loyal through terrible 1970s teams. Reggie White led the gangrene defense that made the Eagles contenders again. Donovan McNabb, Brian Dawkins, and Brian Westbrook gave Philadelphia 5 years of sustained excellence. Jason Kelce was the heart of the Super Bowl 52 championship team. The Eagles have always been about toughness, passion, and refusing to quit. These 10 players embody that mentality better than anyone else in franchise history. These 10 players represent the absolute peak of Eagles football. They won championships, dominated their positions, and gave everything for the city of Philadelphia. Debates about rankings will never end. Eagles fans will always argue about who should be higher or who got snubbed. That's what makes these conversations great. There's no perfect answer. But if you're starting a franchise and need one player to build around, Reggie White is the answer. His dominance, his consistency, his impact, nobody in Eagles history comes close. Thanks for watching this journey through Eagles history. Hit subscribe for more content celebrating the legends who made this franchise special. And remember, these 10 players showed us what it means to be an Eagle. Fly, Eagles fly.